Hi, my name is Monica Cruz. I'm a career advisor at the Career Center. I'll be going over how to write a cover letter effectively in this video. So these are the components that we'll be going over in this video. So we'll go over what is the purpose of a cover letter, how to conduct research to help you write the cover letter, formatting, tailoring your cover letter from the initial research that you did, the content of a cover letter, additional tips, and then we'll go over the references as well as next steps. By the end of this workshop, you'll be able to communicate what a cover letter is and why it's important to your career development, identify the format and content ideas to implement your own cover letter, and understand why and how to use the cover letter to be able to communicate your experiences, strengths, and skills. And then at the bottom, we have the NACE career competencies that this presentation will address. So again, we have the oral written communication as well as the career management component, which involves creating, revising, synthesizing your cover letter, and making it a priority. These are the other NACE career readiness competencies. As I mentioned in the previous slide, this video recording presentation will address oral written communications and career management. Our other workshops address these other competencies, and our hope is that by watching these video recordings of our presentations or attending our presentations virtually or in person, that you'll be able to obtain the competencies that will prepare you for a successful transition into the workplace. This slide outlines the different purposes of a cover letter. Although the cover letter is only a one-page document, it does have several different purposes. So it first and foremost expresses your interest and the qualifications for a particular position that you're seeking. It kind of adds a personal touch to your application material. So the resume is usually more objective, but the cover letter adds that touch of subjectivity to your application. It is tailored specifically to a position or a company, and it explains how you fit with the organization that you're writing to and how you'll be able to help them based on your existing skills and prior experiences. It expands on main points from your resume as opposed to kind of repeating the same things on your resume. It's an extension or a synthesis of the information that's on your resume. It also sells your qualifications to the prospective employer that you're writing to. And this isn't written on here, but it's also a writing sample. So it is really important to make sure that your cover letter is error-free and written really well. In order to write an effective cover letter, it's really important that you do your research on the position and role that you're applying for, as well as the company and organization itself. So looking at the general job responsibilities, the desired qualifications and skills, as well as keywords that are listed on the job description. So if you're noticing that on a job description, it's mentioning some of the same keywords over and over, that is usually a hint that that's something that's really important to the employer. So definitely take your time examining the job description, save a copy, because this will benefit you as you're not only writing the cover letter, but also when you're preparing for the interview. And oftentimes what will happen is after the deadline for an application has passed, then the job posting as well as the job description will disappear and you won't have access to it anymore. So it's really important to make sure that you save a copy for your reference throughout the application process. In addition to doing your research on the position itself, it's important to do research on the company or organization that you're applying to. So looking at things like the mission statement or vision and goals that are on the company or organization website typically. Other things you can look at are affinity groups, philanthropical efforts the company organization has been involved with, as well as opportunities for future growth that they provide for their employees, and any strengths that the company organization has. So this is an example of a mission. This is for the University of California, Riverside. So it says that UCR will transform the lives of the diverse people of California, the nation, and the world through the discovery, communication, translation, application, and preservation of knowledge, thereby enriching the state's economic, social, cultural, and environmental future. Usually all companies, organizations have a mission statement on their website, so make sure that you're looking at that and seeing how this aligns with your values and communicating that on your cover letter. Going back to the job description, once you've printed out a copy or saved the copy on your computer, I highly recommend going through and highlighting some of the keywords and qualifications, skills, whatever is standing out to you in the job description. This will come into play as you're writing the content that goes into your cover letter, which we'll discuss later. Now we'll go over the format for the cover letter. We recommend using the same header style as your resume in an effort to brand your documents and keep them consistent. In terms of who to address your cover letter to, if you can't identify the person to whom you should address it to, and you've attempted to reach out to the company to find out who it is and you can't find out the individual, then it's okay to use Dear Hiring Manager or Dear Selection Committee. Just don't use To Whom It May Concern because it's very impersonal and vague. It can concern a lot of different people, so try to be a little bit more specific, even if you can't identify the individual. In the first paragraph, you'll talk about how you found out about the position. So if you used a job search site, if you found it on Handshake, or you found out about it on at a career fair, you would include that in the first paragraph. Also include what interests you about this particular position, why you want to work for the company. And lastly, you'll end with a thesis statement, so to speak, where you'll write about 2 to 3 skills or qualifications that make you a strong candidate for the position. Then going into the body paragraphs, I would recommend splitting them up into 2 to 3 body paragraphs to correspond with the 2 to 3 skills mentioned in your thesis statement. And that's where you'll go into these skills qualifications more in detail using a strong example. Then you would end each of these paragraphs with a statement about how you can connect these qualifications to the position, to the company organization that you're writing to. Then lastly, in the final paragraph, you would further express your enthusiasm and interest in the position and company and thank them for your time, and also communicate the interest in speaking with them further, so opening it up for an interview. So breaking it down by each section, again, here we have the header where you'll have your name and contact information. So mimicking the style that you might have used for your resume is recommended. It definitely adds a nice touch, keeps things consistent, and kind of brands your documents. Then you would have the date followed by the name and contact information of the person you're writing to. Again, if you can't identify the person, it's okay to use hiring committee, hiring manager, hiring team. But again, don't use to whom it may concern, though I would strongly encourage you to reach out to the company or organization to see if you can identify the individual you're meant to address your documents to. So this is another example adopting the style that was used on the resume. So kind of having a branded pair of documents followed by plain text of for the date and for the contact information of the person at the company. Now we'll talk about the first paragraph, and it essentially explains the purpose of why you're writing to the company and organization, as well as introducing yourself. It also is meant to explain and describe your interest in the position as well as the company itself. And again, you end with this thesis statement of qualities or skills, things that make you an ideal candidate for the position that kind of sets up the rest of your cover letter. Here we have an example of the first paragraph. So the first sentence expresses the interest in the position as well as the excitement to learn about the position being offered. Then we have the next sentence: the University of XYZ is a national leader in Division I athletics and is well respected for emphasizing the holistic development of academic, career, and life skills for all student athletes. So this shows that the candidate did their research on the organization, and this is also the reason why the candidate wants to be part of this program, as explained in the next sentence. Then the last sentence, again, is their thesis statement. So I believe I am an ideal candidate for the position due to my personal experience as a student athlete, my experience serving as an academic advisor for student athletes, and my educational preparation. So ideally, these components would all be off of the job description or based on supplemental research that you've done on the position and the company or organization itself. Next, we have the body paragraphs, which will break down the thesis statement into the individual components, so highlighting the skills and benefits mentioned in that thesis statement, as well as continuing to emphasize your interest in the company. And you would do so by providing concrete evidence or anecdotal evidence to show the employer how you've used these skills in the past, as opposed to simply telling them. And very important not to include all of the information from your resume. It's a tendency that is difficult to overcome because you want to explain everything that makes you a strong candidate for the position. But with the cover letter, it's important to adopt the line of thought that less is more. So identifying the most pertinent information that makes you a strong candidate for the position. On this slide, we have example of the body paragraphs. So each of these paragraphs highlights a different skill or experience that this candidate has that aligns with the requirements listed on the job description. And so they mention their analytical and communication and interpersonal skills, teamwork, as well as ability to follow policies and procedures while using real examples. And then at the very end, they have a statement where they simply write, "I fully intend on bringing the same service to the University of XYZ." So this is another way that the cover letter differs from the resume. The resume is kind of a document of all of your accomplishments that you've achieved at different companies or organizations. whereas the cover letter, it's about doing that in a sense as well, but at the end it's always about bringing all of that together and connecting it to how you can bring those skills, those experiences to make you successful in this new opportunity that you're seeking. Then we have the final paragraph where you're kind of summarizing everything that you've mentioned already. So connecting my personal experiences as a former student athlete with current athletes is something that is extremely important to me. So adding that value, why are you interested in this position? What meaning does it have for you? And then if given the opportunity to use this platform to help students, I assure you that my work ethic and attention to detail will exceed the expectations of the position. So this sentence kind of connects what the candidate has to offer and what they will bring to the position if offered the position. Then it has their contact information, which you don't have to include in the final paragraph if you've already included it in your header. Then the last sentences are just thanking the reviewer as well as kind of concluding with the next step. So I look forward to hearing from you is kind of calling to action, that the next step would be the interview. So that would be the next step. Then we have different closing formats. So these two examples mainly differ in that one has the contact information at the bottom, whereas the other one doesn't. Again, if you've already included this information in the header, you don't have to include it. And with the signature, if you have the ability to be able to add a signature, it adds a nice touch, but it's not mandatory. And here are just some last tips to consider when writing your cover letter. So we've already established that it's important to tailor your cover letter to the position that you're applying to. Before it was easier to kind of create a generic template and send that to a wide variety of different job postings, but now it is much more important to tailor it to the specific position and to the company. So make sure you do so, and if you are working from a template to tailor, make sure that you're changing things like the position title and the company or organization name. You definitely do not want to send a document that has the wrong employer listed on it. Avoid unprofessional language, so don't use slang. Also avoid contractions, similar to academic writing. Avoiding contractions just makes your writing sound more professional. The length should be 1 page, though it does depend on the industry that you're in. However, 1 page is typically the standard. So the strongest and most relevant qualifications should be highlighted. Again, it's that line of thinking that less is more. There is that tendency to want to include everything that is on your resume to make sure that the employer is aware of all of the things that you're capable of doing. But again, stick to the ones that are the most relevant to the position and your strongest skills. Demonstrate enthusiasm and originality. So in reading a lot of cover letters, it does become pretty apparent which ones are enthusiastic and which ones aren't. So try to communicate that to the best of your ability. I think that doing your research on the company and identifying one thing at least that makes you interested in working for that company, I think that really helps in communicating your enthusiasm and interest. Make sure that you proofread for typos, grammar error, and spelling. Remember that this is also a writing sample, so you want to make sure that it is as error-free as possible. Again, for a polished look, try to use the same header style for your contact information that you use for your resume. stick to a font size of 10 to 12, and margins can be as small as 0.5 inches all the way around. On a related note, we have the references, which will not be included on the resume or the cover letter documents themselves, but will often be a separate document, or some employers might ask you to provide these references as part of a web application that is on their company website. So make sure that you have at least 3 references who are ready and willing to be able to speak about your work. So a reference is someone who knows your work habits, has known you for a long time, is credible, and is not just a personal friend or family member. Contact your references before so that they have the heads up and that they feel comfortable and willing to be able to give you a strong positive reference. Make sure that you have the correct contact information. So also have their name and job title as up to date as possible so that the employer can reach out and connect with them as accurately as possible. So if you have to create a references document, again, you can use a header with your contact information similar to what you use for your resume and cover letter, again, to keep things consistent and have that branded look to your documents. Then you would have your references information, so their name, position or job title, followed by the company or organization that they work at, and their contact information. Then you would include the professional relationship that you have with them. So for next steps, you can have your cover letter reviewed via appointment or drop-in by a career specialist virtually. So we have our drop-in schedule listed below. Mondays through Thursdays is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Fridays is just a little different, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Be sure to upload your resume and cover letter to Handshake and complete your Handshake profile as well. If you have any other questions that were not covered in this video recording, again, feel free to make an appointment or schedule a drop-in with us.